Hey everyone, Christina Simmons from Say Yes to Holiness here. So we're heading into Lent this coming week on Wednesday. So I guess my question is, do you have a Lenten plan yet? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share 5 questions for you to consider, or 5 actions for you to take that's going to incorporate the traditional disciplines that the church asks of us to make resolutions about: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, but then also showing you how it is that the 4 steps to holiness, what it is that I talk about of how you can grow in holiness each and every day: daily prayer and meditation, living that life of grace by frequenting the sacraments, growth in virtue, and abandoning ourselves to God's will, all can integrate in order to give you a phenomenal Lenten plan. So let's start. So the first thing that we can be doing is that we can be looking to minimize our personal needs. This means that we need to be stepping back. We need to become detached from all the different things that are in our life. I often frequently share a quote from Viktor Frankl, who said, "Everything in this life can be taken from us except for our freedom of how we choose to respond." This is the essence of detachment. How are we going to respond to what it is that is going on in our life? But in a particular way, for us to look to minimize our personal needs. The second is that we can take a look at our spending. And let's tighten up that superfluous spending. In a particular way, do we really need to be purchasing that item? Do we really need that new pair of shoes? Or do we really need to go out for dinner, for example, when we might be able to fix a great meal at home? So those are the different types of things that we can look at. We can look to tighten up our superfluous expenditures. The third is for us not to give in to whims, for us to not go, oh, well, let me go ahead and continue watching the next episode and binge watch whatever series we're watching. I'm guilty here. Or to not just give in to whim, to, hey, let me blow off, this project I have to do because I feel like hanging out with my friends. Now, are any of those things bad in themselves? Watching the next episode in a series you're watching, or in going and spending time with friends? Absolutely not. Particularly in this pandemic world, we need to be very attentive, though, to making sure that we're not giving into whims. Rather, we're being very attentive to all of what it is that we're about. The fourth thing that we can do is that we can overcome a tendency to create false needs. Many times our expenditures, in fact, all the science and research says, our spending or buying decisions are actually rooted in impulse. Even if we think that we're using logic and it's still an emotional purchase. So we need to be making sure that we don't have this tendency to be creating a false need, i.e. looking at our car that needs an oil change, might need a new set of tires, and we begin to then create this false need that, oh, I need to get a new car, versus I need to care for the one that I have. So not looking to create false needs in our life, but rather being able to be attentive to what it is that we have and what we truly need. And the fifth one is for us to look at, how generous am I in my almsgiving? How generous am I of freely giving of myself, my time, my talent, and my treasure? Mother Teresa of Calcutta, now Saint Mother Teresa, she said, give until it hurts. And what she meant by that, very simply, is that we should give, and then we should give a little bit more to stretch ourselves. It shouldn't be off of our excess that we give to people, but rather it should be that we're making a sacrifice. That's the true nature of almsgiving. So how does this all come together? Well, when we're minimizing our personal needs, we're learning to fast. Fast isn't always about just fasting from meat on Fridays or on Ash Wednesday, but rather fasting can be a whole assortment of different things. It can be fasting from things such as gossip, for example, but minimizing our personal needs of what it is that we actually need, our ecological footprint here in the world that we talk about, our carbon footprint, our ecological footprint. Looking to minimize our needs is a good way for us to fast. So coming up with a resolution that could be attached to that. Tightening up our superfluous expenditures actually has to do with prayer. Why would this have to do with prayer? Well, because when we're spending time in daily prayer and meditation, the living word is taking root in our hearts, and we begin to see as God sees. And when we see as God sees, then what happens is that we then begin to realize that I don't really need that, or I don't really need to be about this activity that I thought I did. And we are able to focus upon our true needs rather than things that are really superfluous. The third is not giving in to whim. This is how we grow in virtue each day. This is how we cultivate a life of virtue in our lives, is that we strive to grow in particular virtues, like, for example, prudence, temperance, courage. Courage and fortitude are the same, and then also being able to grow in our capacity to be able to use wisdom and knowledge properly so that we can determine what is it that I can choose to do the good freely, easily, and with joy. That's what growing in virtue is about. So not giving in to whim, great opportunity to grow in virtue. That overcoming our tendency to create false needs, this is how we can truly abandon ourselves to God's will. We can trust that He is going to provide everything that we truly need in our lives. He is going to be able to care for us like He does the sparrows in the field. He's going to be able to care for us because He knows every hair on our heads. So for us to overcome that tendency to create false needs is recognizing that God is going to care for us and abandoning ourselves and trusting Him to do that. And finally, almsgiving. I talked about generosity in our almsgiving, and this is what we're called to do. We're called in our almsgiving to bring our prayer and our fasting together so that we can give more freely of ourselves, so that we are able to love as God loves. And God loves us with an abundance. And this is what Lent is about, is for us to focus upon how much does God love me. He loves me so much that He came to this earth and He died for me. He died for each one of us so that way we could have that life of abundance, so that we could have life to the full. So I hope that just these few thoughts might be able to help you be able to craft your Lenten plan for how it is that you're going to approach this coming Lent. And I also invite you, if you want to take that next step of being able to embark upon a journey with a like-minded group of people where you have customized coaching, where you have support, where you have accountability. If you're looking to really transform your life and you're willing to take the step to embark upon a year-long adventure with me, then check out the Camino. You go to sayyestoholiness.com/LEL-Camino. So I'm going to put it in the notes as well, but I invite you to check it out. We're gathering another group of people who are going to be setting out on this journey that's going to be one of transformation, but it's one in which we're putting first things first. We're putting God first in our lives, and there's no better time for us to do it than as we are, as a universal church, turning and saying, Lord, help me. I'm a sinner. Help me be able to become more in your image and likeness of how you've created me to be. So again, if you're interested in checking out the Camino, go to www.sayyestoholiness.com/LEL-Camino. Thank you for your time. God bless, and may you have a blessed and very fruitful Lent.